My name is Emily. Welcome to my children's garden. It's the place where dreams are cultivated. I have a great show planned for you today. See you in a minute. I'd say it's time to do a children's garden. The weather has warmed up and there's been a lot of rain, but the gardens are flourishing. There are quite a few books on the market that you can get about children's gardens. You know, planting a vegetable garden and showing a child how to grow something from a seed to fruition, explaining to them about companion plants and how they nurture one another. Get the idea? All you really need to do is to have fun with your children. Maybe let your imagination run free. Kick your shoes off and become a child again. A little sailboat planted into a sea of lavender flowers. What could be better than that, laying back and looking at the clouds and daydreaming with them? You know, it's just really all about perspective. It's all in how you look at things. So come with me, become a child again today, and look back at the landscape behind you. Lace-cap hydrangeas can become little caps for fairies and angels that dance in your gardens. Saporonia, soapwort. It produces a lather and was often planted near factories that produced soap. Leucanthemum chrysanthemum, how poetic is that? The daisy is a derivation of the English dialect, days eye. The petals will open with the sun and close towards the evening comes. History, science, folklore, it's all in your garden. All you have to do is tap into that fertile imagination. I'm back. We have a lot of activity in this area right now. A road race. So every now and again you're going to see some bikers go by, which just adds to the excitement of the whole day. Christine and her family homeschools. This is a wonderful place to be able to teach your children. I can't think of any better classroom for this type of thing. Community gardens started during the Second World War. At that time, growing food in victory gardens was a patriotic duty, based largely on growing your own food in the backyard. A half-century later, we are entering another global crisis. Growing your own food is redeeming in the same way that recycling is. Every community garden is different. They can be large or small and come in many shapes and sizes. These gardens are usually close to home. The Attleboro Area Community Garden is a joint endeavor of the City of Attleboro and the Attleboro Land Trust. Plots are made available to local residents each year on a first-come, first-served basis. How did you get into homeschooling?
I always was curious about it. There are so many people who homeschool that it was very, very easy to find out about it.
About legalities?
I know Massachusetts law very well. Rhode Island is different. There are many websites that can help you with what are the rules in my particular state, or you can contact the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA, which is like a nationwide American group that can help you with your legal fees. We have to talk to the superintendent or school board of our local area and tell them three things. Our fitness to be teachers, we don't have to have even a high school diploma. We do have to talk about our experience teaching and that we are moral people of, I forget, there's a catchphrase.
Upright standing.
Upright morals and competent something or other.
She's a good person.
You have to say why you're able to teach. Then you have to say how long you're going to teach, which usually for kindergarten is 450 hours, and for older grades up to middle school is 900, and after middle school it's like 950. Usually by the time you do everything, you've gone over that anyway. For the last several years we've participated in the First Lego League, the Junior First Lego League in Rhode Island. And Ben and a team has had to do a research project on a topic they give him, and then he has to build a model that demonstrates. One year it was sea creatures, another year it was a building in town, last year it was a nanotechnology idea. And we went up to MIT to the Soldier Institute for Nanotechnology, and we found that they were studying how seashells are built. Sea snail shells.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't. Are made out of 2 very soft materials. It's calcium,
Gotta run. So you are monitored somewhat.
Oh yeah, we have to send in either a portfolio or dated work samples, or they can take a standardized test.
And you mentioned that as well. You do have them do that because you want them to be prepared to be able to go to college if they would like to.
Oh yes, standardized tests are how you get your scholarships.
We do not want to neglect that. In any community, if you went to a library or if you went online, I'm certain you'd be able to get some information.
If you Google home education, you get a lot of links.
There they go again. It's an amazing site. I do know that you can learn a lot from your gardenings. This is a fine example of that. This is a wonderful place to be able to teach your children all about nature, science, history, folklore. You did something called the Three Sisters Garden.
Well, we had the corn in the middle, and then we had beans growing up around the corn, and then around it low we had the squash. And my grandfather said the squash would keep the deer out because the leaves are scratchy and they don't like stepping through it.
Yeah.
So apparently that's a traditional way the Native Americans used to grow it around here.
There's a whole storyline that goes with it.
And you're supposed to put a fish in with the corn, but
Fertilizer.
we just did fish emulsion, but it stank good, so we figured that counted.
Yeah, that's really a good clue to know that it's working. Corn, beans, and squash are three inseparable sisters who only grow and thrive together. This tradition of interplanting corn, beans, and squash in the same mounds widespread among Native American farming societies and provided long-term soil fertility and a healthy diet to generations. Growing a Three Sisters garden is a wonderful way to feel more connected to the history of this land regardless of our ancestry. Corn, beans, and squash were among the first important crops domesticated by ancient societies. They are seen as three beautiful sisters because they grow in the same mound in a garden. An ecosystem. Each plant helps the others grow. This is a form of companion planting. Corn provides a ladder for the bean vine. The squash shade the mound and hold moisture in the soil for the corn and beans. Many a legend has been woven around the three sisters. This story was retold and passed down for generations and generations. It was a time of the Trail of Tears, the time when the people were being forced to leave their lands and walk to a strange home for the West. There were three sisters who had no family except for themselves. They were very afraid, for they had heard of the dangers of the trail and knew that three women alone would have a hard time making it to the Indian Territory. They were very different from one another. The first sister, Corn Woman, was tall and strong. The second sister, Bean Girl, was thin and quick and agile, always moving from here to there and always alert and observant, but she wasn't very strong physically. The third sister, Squash Blossom, was short and thick. She didn't move very fast and was worried about keeping up with the others on the long trail. Corn Woman would use her strength to help her sisters keep upright and moving when they tired towards the end of the day. Bean Girl would dot about, disappearing often into the thick brush around the trail, and then reappearing with food to keep her sisters alive. Squash Blossom plodded steadily along, seldom stopping, but with her slow, steady pace, she noticed things about the trail that the others missed, and several times discovered small sprigs that refreshed her sisters. Many people died on the long trail called the Trail Where They Cried. Old ones that couldn't keep up were left to die along the path. Young children who didn't have the strength to follow were left behind to tend to themselves. Despair and suffering were all around, but the three sisters helped each other to keep moving and to keep alive. When the people reached Indian Territory, the elders began to talk about how the sisters helped each other. When it came time to plant the crops that spring, one old woman used what she had learned from watching the sisters to plant her garden. She planted the corn, the beans, and the squash together rather than separately as she had always done. Sure enough, her gardens flourished, and from that day on, the people have planted the three crops together. The tall, strong corn supports the bean plant and keeps them away from the muddy ground and the bugs, while the bean takes nourishment from the air to help the corn and the squash grow. The squash grows slowly but steadily, and during the hottest part of the summer, shades the ground and keeps the moisture in. Today, the people tell the story of the three sisters to teach the children that sometimes working together helps everyone.